This is DMG, and in this video we're going to talk about how to make tree stumps with a little bit of shade. Why do we need shade? That will become evident. Well, hopefully it'll become evident, otherwise this could be problematic. This is a variant of DM Scotty's 2.5D trees, and we're going to use these very thin single-layered cardboard sheets. And this is really the lid of a pizza box. You know where I got that from. So we're just going to use a marker to trace out some treetop shapes. So I'm going to fit 4 on here. Small, medium bigger, and large. And we're going to cut those out. So just cut them out into various different blocks, and then cut around the actual markings themselves. And then we're going to take a toilet paper roll, of course, bog standard, and mark out 1-inch little marks along the toilet roll. So once you've done that, squish the toilet roll and cut to those 1-inch marks. These are 2.5 centimeters if you are not using imperial measurements. And like me, you like the metric system. So then just squish them back into shape, as you should. And then we're going to grab some tinfoil. And this is where it starts to get a bit strange. Why on earth do we have tinfoil? Just rip some strips of tinfoil. We're going to need a few, so get a few. And then we're going to make sure that they're not super long. So you want to be about 4 or 5 inches, probably 4 inches long. And then you're going to squish them into this long, what would you call it, line. So just squish it all down and make a whole stack of those. You're going to need about 3 or 4 per actual tree stump. Then hot glue to one side. Doesn't matter if it goes over, we will use this for other things. So hot glue one side of the toilet paper roll and stick it to as much the center of each one of those things as possible. Each one of those treetop shapes that we measured. Then we're going to grab those rolled up bits of tinfoil and fold it over so there's a bit of a loop, and hot glue about the roughly the same size as the piece that you have, and stick it down. It is pretty good to have the loop sticking over the top of the toilet roll there, which is the top of the tree stump. As I'm sure you have guessed, these are roots. So we're just going to continue this process along, and you add 3 or 4 of these per tree stump, and pinch them at the top so they get thinner towards the top of the tree stump, and you can pinch them along the ends as well, squish them down into the cardstock. And just be careful, the hot glue is hot, so you don't want to burn yourself when you're applying these things. So you may want to wait for it to cure just a little bit so that it's not as hot, and just remember to pinch the top. So as I said, we all apply 3 or 4 of these, and really this is giving us a texture as well as help to reinforce this central trunk. So once you've got there, you can just cut off the tops of those loops that are going over the top of the cardboard, the toilet roll, and so that makes it sort of nice and flush. So there you have it. It's nice and clean and open, and that will become apparent as to why we're doing that. And you can see here 1-inch gives you a nice little place for a mini to hide, depending on what game you're playing. Plus, this will also help you with line of sight. So the 2.5D, obviously you could have a little bit of problem with line of sight, and this helps you to hide behind trees. Then get your hot glue gun and pull out from the base and from the top of the tree, run it up and down rapidly to create a bark texture on the outside of the toilet roll, and also more sort of root structures coming out of the base of the tree stump. It's just a quick up and down motion, and pull out from the base of the tree about an inch. And then once black bombed, you'll see this is what it looks like. So now we're going to apply some brown paint. Apply it vertically, so as you're applying the paint, just stroke it up towards the top of the tree stump, and continue that along all the roots and all the texture, but leave the base black so you can still see the black. Then using white paint, you want to do, while it's still wet, so while the brown is still wet, you just want to hit it a few times with the brush delicately with the white paint. You don't want to seriously mix the white paint in. You want it to still be white when you're applying the paint, and just go over each one of these, applying that white paint to all the textures that are there, including the ones on the base, and just continue all the way around all of them. Then grab some yellow paint, and while it's still wet, you don't even need to clean your brush, just put it into the yellow paint and then just fleck it onto the piece. So less than you would have done with the white, but just want to just give it just a small little lick of paint. That's all it really needs on some of the higher areas. Then we're going to grab our sponge that we used for the pizza box terrain, where we went with the green, and this is the sponge with the holes in it. Then we're going to grab green paint, and we're going to lightly put the green paint on. Very, just a little touch. Make sure you get a lot of it off, and then just stamp it onto the outside edges of that base. So continue that with all of them. Because the paint is wet, some of the brown, the yellow, and the white will probably mix with the green. That is perfectly acceptable and actually helps to make this look just that little bit better. So continue that process all throughout. Now, speaking of the pizza box terrain, here is the dry riverbed, and we're just placing the bases on there. So now you can see that obviously the green is coming through here is much darker once it's dried. You can see the colors and the texture creating the stump, and minis are much easier to move around when there's not so much vertical space obstructing them. So that's how we make a whole stack of tree stumps ready to be placed on your terrain. In the next video, we're actually going to make 3D trees, and we're going to use the tree stumps as the base. Yes. Taking DM Scotty's wonderful tree design and actually repurposing it for a completely new way to do it. Although he's probably done something very similar, we're going to do the DMG rehash version. So if you like this video, like button. Don't forget to check me out on Facebook and Twitter, and I'll see you next week in the next crafting adventure with the DMG. Speaking of adventures, don't forget to check out my store. Bye!